Have you ever wondered what hidden secrets some of America's most famous politicians might be hiding? In this video, I'm going to reveal the top 10 politicians who definitely have a lot to hide and have been hypocrites in what they vow and actually deliver. So stick around until the end, because you might hear some truths you never wanted to know. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an important exposé. Let's get started. Number 10, Nancy Pelosi, the queen of power and privilege. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most iconic and polarizing figures in American politics. As the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House, not once but twice, she's been hailed as a trailblazer by her supporters. But behind that legacy lies a long trail of unanswered questions and ethical concerns. For years, Pelosi has been accused of using her powerful position to enrich herself and her family, particularly through insider stock trading. Though she's never been formally charged, critics point to the uncanny success of her husband, Paul Pelosi, in the stock market, making multi-million-dollar trades that often align suspiciously close to legislation Nancy herself oversees. She has a streak of trading just days before key congressional decisions. What's more disturbing is that Pelosi has consistently blocked or stalled legislation aimed at preventing members of Congress from trading stocks. And yet, through all the controversy, Pelosi remains untouchable, protected by the very system she helped shape. Number 9, Lindsey Graham, the senator of shifting loyalties. Lindsey Graham has spent decades in the U.S. Senate carving out a reputation as a sharp-tongued, defense-minded conservative. But what truly defines Graham isn't his ideology, it's his remarkable ability to shift with the political winds. And sometimes those shifts raise more questions than answers. Let's rewind to the 2010s. Graham was a vocal critic of Donald Trump, calling him a kook, unfit for office, and a race-baiting xenophobic bigot. But by 2017, he was one of Trump's most loyal allies, golfing at Mar-a-Lago and defending the president on national TV. Graham's transformation wasn't about principle, but power. When Trump took over the Republican base, Graham followed, abandoning former positions on immigration, foreign policy, and even election integrity to stay aligned with the party's new leader. But behind the scenes, Graham's close ties with defense contractors have drawn scrutiny. As a longtime member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, his hawkish policies have coincided with generous campaign donations from the military-industrial complex, raising eyebrows about whether his foreign policy decisions are influenced by those who profit from war. In short, Graham isn't just a politician, he's a survivor. But when survival means shifting positions, cozying up to power, and ignoring ethical boundaries, who's really being represented? Number 8, Hunter Biden, the president's son. Few political names spark more controversy right now than Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden and the man at the center of a storm that blurs the line between personal failure and political scandal. Hunter's story isn't just about poor decisions or family baggage. It's about global business deals, possible influence peddling, and unanswered ethical questions that may reach all the way to the White House. In 2014, Hunter joined the board of a Ukrainian energy company, earning up to $50,000 a month despite having zero experience in the energy sector or Ukrainian affairs. The company was under investigation for corruption, and his father, then vice president, was deeply involved in U.S.-Ukraine policy at the same time. But it didn't stop there. Leaked emails from Hunter's laptop, initially dismissed by mainstream outlets but later confirmed as authentic, revealed communications about business deals in China, discussions of setting aside a cut for the big guy, allegedly Joe Biden, and signs that Hunter may have leveraged his father's name to land foreign clients. In 2023, Hunter faced federal tax charges and questions about whether he failed to report income from overseas ventures. He also faced scrutiny over gun charges and potential false statements on background checks. What worries many Americans isn't just Hunter's behavior, it's the possibility that his last name granted him access, immunity, and influence that ordinary citizens could never dream of. And despite mounting evidence and open investigations, the Biden administration has repeatedly distanced itself, denying any involvement or awareness. Number 7. John Kerry, the climate czar. John Kerry, former Secretary of State, longtime senator, is hailed by many as a global leader in the fight against climate change. But behind the speeches, summits, and symbolic gestures lies a troubling contradiction. The man preaching carbon cuts is living a carbon-heavy lifestyle. Let's start with the private jet controversy. While traveling the globe to warn others about the dangers of fossil fuels, Kerry and his family reportedly used a private jet, a Gulfstream G4 SP, for years. According to FAA data, that jet emitted hundreds of metric tons of CO2, despite Kerry urging everyday Americans to make personal sacrifices to reduce their own carbon footprint. When called out, Kerry dismissed the criticism, saying, "It's the only choice for someone like me." Think about that. A public official telling working-class families to drive less and heat their homes less, while he flies solo across the Atlantic in a luxury aircraft? Is John Kerry a visionary diplomat working for global change? Or just another elite figure saying, "Do as I say, not as I do"? Number 6. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the socialist star. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or simply AOC, rose to fame like a political meteor. A former bartender from the Bronx who defeated a powerful Democratic incumbent, she became an overnight symbol of grassroots revolution, a bold progressive challenging the status quo. But as her national profile soared, so did the questions. Not just about her policies, but about how closely her actions match her ideals. Let's talk image versus reality. AOC has built her brand around fighting for the working class. She champions socialism, rails against corporate greed, and criticizes the political elite for being out of touch. Then came the Met Gala. In 2021, AOC attended the ultra-exclusive Met Gala, an event where tables can cost over $250,000 and tickets are reserved for celebrities and billionaires. She wore a designer gown emblazoned with "Tax the Rich," while surrounded by the rich. The backlash was immediate. Critics called it tone-deaf, hypocritical, even performative. Then came questions about her campaign finance practices. The Federal Election Commission reviewed complaints that her campaign improperly funneled money through affiliated PACs during her 2018 run. While no formal charges were filed, the allegations added fuel to accusations that AOC is more savvy political operator than she lets on. And she also received a lot of support from young Democratic voters for her stance against hawkish policies and foreign aid. But when the push comes to shove, AOC chickens out and votes in their support. Is AOC walking the walk or just playing the part? Number 5, Kamala Harris, unburdened by what has been. Kamala Harris made history as the first female, Black, and South Asian vice president of the United States, a symbolic breakthrough cheered by millions. But once the confetti settled and the headlines faded, many Americans were left asking, where is Kamala Harris? And what exactly does she do? Let's rewind a bit. Before becoming vice president, Harris served as California's Attorney General and later as a U.S. Senator. She branded herself as a progressive reformer. But dig into her record and a different picture emerges. As Attorney General, Harris was surprisingly tough on low-level offenders, resisted efforts to investigate police misconduct, and even defended California's use of solitary confinement. In one controversial case, her office argued against releasing prisoners because the state needed the cheap labor. That's a far cry from the social justice warrior image she projected during her presidential campaign. Then there's her time as vice president. Joe Biden tapped her to lead the administration's response to the border crisis, one of the thorniest issues in American politics. But months went by without a single visit to the border at all. When finally pressed, her awkward reply,
"We are going to the border. We've been to the border." So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
went viral for all the wrong reasons. Behind the doors, reports began surfacing of chaotic staffing, high turnover, and a toxic work environment. Some former aides described Harris as unpredictable and disengaged, more focused on image than substance. And when the public needed reassurance during the withdrawal from Afghanistan, inflation surges, or the rising border chaos, Harris was notably absent or vague, often giving interviews that raised more confusion than clarity. Yet, despite the growing criticisms, she's often shielded from media scrutiny. Why? Because questioning her performance is too easily framed as attacking her identity, rather than evaluating her job. But here's the truth. Symbolism is not leadership, and historic firsts don't excuse a lack of results.
Number 4, Mike Pompeo, the diplomat who played the spy game. Mike Pompeo held 2 of the most powerful positions in the U.S. government under the Trump administration: CIA Director and later Secretary of State. A West Point graduate and former congressman, Pompeo portrayed himself as a no-nonsense patriot, tough on China, and a defender of American values. But behind the polished image and sharp suits lies a man who mastered bureaucratic secrecy, blurred the line between diplomacy and espionage, and raised serious ethical questions along the way. Let's start at the CIA. When Pompeo ran the agency, insiders say he centralized control, minimized oversight, and pushed covert operations aggressively, even proposing assassination plots against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, according to a 2021 Yahoo News report. The CIA under Pompeo viewed journalists not just as nuisances, but as threats. That's not just chilling, it's a direct conflict with democratic transparency. Then, as Secretary of State, Pompeo promised to drain the swamp, but soon faced multiple federal investigations himself. He and his wife reportedly used the State Department staff as personal assistants, organizing dog walks, restaurant reservations, and even picking up dry cleaning. One Inspector General report cited over 100 instances of misconduct, prompting allegations that Pompeo had turned Foggy Bottom into a family concierge service. And when the State Department's independent Inspector General was investigating him, Pompeo recommended his firing to President Trump, raising alarms about retaliation and abuse of power. Then there's the politics. While in office, Pompeo blurred the lines between diplomacy and campaigning, giving a speech at the 2020 Republican National Convention while on official diplomatic travel in Jerusalem. Ethics watchdogs condemned the move as a violation of the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal officials from engaging in political activity while on duty. Internationally, Pompeo pushed a hard line against China, Iran, and the United Nations, but many critics argue his aggressive stance often leaned toward protecting the military contractors and pushing for new wars. So, who is Mike Pompeo? A principled hawk defending American interests, or a power player who bent the rules, weaponized the system, and used government resources like a personal empire? Number 3, Adam Schiff, the master of hidden agendas. For years, Congressman Adam Schiff was seen as one of the Democratic Party's most trusted voices on intelligence and national security. As the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, he became a constant presence on cable news, warning about Russia, Trump, classified threats, and the future of democracy. But behind the serious tone and somber expressions, many now question whether Schiff was protecting the truth or playing a dangerous political game with it. Let's rewind to the Trump-Russia investigation. Schiff repeatedly claimed that he had seen direct evidence of collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. He went on every major network, implying there was solid proof, evidence that never materialized. Even after the Mueller report failed to establish criminal conspiracy, Schiff doubled down, insisting that the real story was still hidden. He framed himself as the keeper of secrets, while giving the public half-truths wrapped in confidence. Then came the impeachment inquiries, where Schiff staged dramatic hearings and became a central figure in crafting the narrative against Trump. But it wasn't just what he said, it was what he withheld. In 2020, declassified transcripts showed that many of the intelligence officials Schiff had brought in, people he had used to fuel suspicions, had privately testified under oath that they had seen no concrete evidence of collusion. Schiff had sat on those transcripts for months, refusing to release them, all while continuing to push the narrative in the media. That's not oversight, that's orchestration. And then there's the leaking. Numerous journalists and former intelligence officials have hinted, some directly, that Schiff's office was a frequent source of classified leaks to the press. When Elon Musk's Twitter Files project in 2022 revealed that Schiff's office had pressured Twitter to censor certain users and remove content, including political satire and criticism, the concerns deepened. A lawmaker, supposedly a champion of free speech and truth, pushing for private censorship behind closed doors? Number 2. Chuck Schumer, the Senator of Wall Street. Chuck Schumer isn't flashy. He doesn't dominate headlines like AOC or trade barbs on Twitter like Trump. But make no mistake, Schumer is one of the most powerful, calculating, and enduring figures in American politics. He's been in Congress since 1981. He's outlasted speakers, presidents, and scandals. And he's risen, quietly but decisively, to become the Senate Majority Leader, shaping the direction of the Democratic Party and much of the national agenda. But with that power comes questions, and a growing list of unanswered ones. Despite his populist tone in recent years, Chuck Schumer has deep, long-standing ties to big finance, and he's long been one of the top recipients of donations from hedge funds, investment banks, and securities firms. In fact, during the 2008 financial crisis, Schumer was one of the key voices defending the bailout of Wall Street, while millions of Americans lost their homes, savings, and jobs. His critics call him the senator from Goldman Sachs, and it's not hard to see why. Over the years, Schumer has quietly helped block or water down legislation that would have imposed stricter regulations on banks and trading firms. He speaks like a reformer, but votes like an insider. Then there's immigration. Publicly, Schumer is a champion of immigrant rights, but privately, he's taken contradictory positions. In the 1990s and early 2000s, he supported tougher border controls, increased deportations, and policies that progressives now call cruel.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple.
His record on surveillance isn't much better. Schumer voted in favor of the Patriot Act and has supported multiple expansions of government surveillance powers. Even after revelations of mass data collection by the NSA, Schumer offered little resistance. He speaks out against authoritarianism abroad while greenlighting domestic spying at home. And then there's his role in partisan power games. In 2020, when Amy Coney Barrett was nominated to the Supreme Court, Schumer vowed Democrats would have their revenge. Since then, he's led a Senate that increasingly uses procedural tactics not for oversight, but for partisan revenge politics, blocking legislation, stalling judicial confirmations, and pushing partisan narratives under the guise of democracy. Number 1. Barack Obama, the silent power behind the curtain. Barack Obama's presidency was marked by soaring rhetoric, historic milestones, and a global wave of hope. He was the first Black president, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and a figure who inspired millions around the world. But beneath the polished speeches and charismatic smile lies a complex legacy, one that includes decisions and actions that continue to haunt American politics today. Despite campaigning on a platform of change and transparency, Obama expanded the national security agencies, NSA's mass surveillance programs, far beyond what his predecessor, George W. Bush, had done. Under his watch, whistleblowers like Edward Snowden revealed the extent of government spying on ordinary Americans, journalists, and even allied leaders. Then there's foreign policy. Obama promised to end forever wars, but oversaw an expansion of drone strikes, covert operations, and military interventions in countries like Libya, Syria, and Yemen. On the domestic front, Obama's administration faced criticism for its handling of the 2008 financial crisis aftermath. And what about transparency? While Obama projected an image of openness, his administration was often accused of suppressing information, controlling the media narrative, and prosecuting whistleblowers. The term "most transparent administration ever" quickly became a target of sarcasm. And lastly, Obama's post-presidential influence continues behind the scenes. Through the Obama Foundation and political endorsements, his shadow looms large over the Democratic Party, shaping its future direction, alliances, and priorities. All right, friends, now that we've dived deep into the dark world of American politics and uncovered 10 politicians with a lot to hide, it's time to hear from you. Which one surprised you the most? Are these really the representatives we trusted? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support and subscribe so you're first in line for more deep dives. So until the next video, keep your eyes open, stay curious, and remember, this is the place to wake up and ask the tough questions.